Imagine the perfect video store.
Blockbuster's America's family video store. You know, we have more kids' videos than any place else.
More movies, more nights, more fun.
And I can keep them for 3 evenings.
Ordinary video stores don't even come close to Blockbuster Video.
Blockbuster Video!
When I first told my mom I was going to Oregon for a story, the first thing she said was, "Oh, well, that's a new one. Fair enough." I've been to a lot of places around the country covering human interest stories. In 2016, I watched a beach full of people bravely run into below 0-degree water with nothing but bathing suits. Last year, I went to New York and talked to ice cream vendors in Washington Square Park who had been there since the 70s. But still, after all this time, Oregon was, indeed, a new one. Visiting a new state feels like traveling to another country. You can cross a border and be in a whole new world, whole new culture, whole new everything. But what I came to see was even more exciting than all of that. Bend, Oregon is home to the last blockbuster in the entire world. A still functioning, still thriving Blockbuster video store. The streaming wars have all but killed the video rental store. Truth be told, it was probably dead even before that. Yet, through it all, the classic blue and yellow movie ticket has somehow found a way to still stand tall. Whether it's nostalgia, loyalty, novelty, or a mix of it all, people still find their way to this final relic of a bygone time. I was in Bend, Oregon for exactly 7 days and 8 nights. And Bend is a nice place. Everybody knows everyone. A walk anywhere will never take more than 5 minutes. There's a bed and breakfast on every street, and the sound of a river somehow always in earshot. Having said all of that, 90% of my time was occupied in the Blockbuster store. Smelling fresh popcorn became second nature. You could feel the carpet of the whole store scream, "I'm from the 80s," but I needed to be here all those hours to answer one question. What makes someone walk into a Blockbuster in 2020, and more importantly, what makes someone own a Blockbuster in 2020? How is this place still here? The man guarding the register and taking late DVDs is 18-year-old Flip Sanders, who was kind enough to let me lurk around this store all these days and poke and prod into why he was here.
Well, I mean, if you want to know how it all started, we're going to have to take a major flashback to the 2nd grade, the peak of my existence. I took out this VHS of some Frankie Muniz movie. I think it was called Big Fat Liar. Then, like 10 years later, I go into my freezer, and lo and behold, all the way in the back, buried beneath the frozen pizzas, the damn VHS. I did not want to bring it back. Plus, my friend said the place had a year tops, so I'd just be off the hook if I rode this out. But my mom always said, honesty is the best policy. So I walked in, and this guy, Dave, takes the VHS and gives me a death stare. I couldn't tell if it was like an integrity thing or because of the lost business of a missing Big Fat Liar VHS. So then he pulls out a legit calculator, like one of those chunky graphing ones from middle school. $300 in late fees. So I tell the guy, listen, I ain't got $300, and my mom will kill me if I ask her for it. Dave rolled his eyes. I was getting the feeling he'd left me off the hook. I was very wrong. He said I could work here until I paid off the late fee. It was either that or taking out of the money I saved for a car. So job it was. My dad said to me, "This is a first-rate way to learn the importance of discipline and integrity." My dad came from a football family, a long one. His dad and his dad before him and his dad before him all played running back. Number 32, every one of them. Great-grandpa Otto the Gun Sanders played tailback at Oregon State and was a part of the winning Rose Bowl team of 1942. He was on the bench the whole time, but my dad leaves that part out. So every day after football practice, I'd come in and work the register. My first day, I still had my practice jersey on working the register, and Dave is a stickler for uniforms, or else you're just some rando behind the register. I told him the shirt he gave me was like way too small, but he said it was all they had. Now, I'm in a men's small Blockbuster uniform, barely able to move my arms without risking of ripping the shirt like the Hulk. I was on my phone a lot the first couple weeks. I mean, working at a Blockbuster in the middle of Oregon ain't exactly glamorous. There were some days where the most tantalizing part of the shift was the elevator music playing through the speakers. It was school, practice, Blockbuster, home. That was the routine. Sometimes I'd have my playbook with me when the place was a ghost town. I needed to work extra hard this summer. Last Thanksgiving, we've got this big game against Redmond. 3-yard line, down 4, 40 seconds left and ticking. Number 32, me, in the backfield. QB rolls left for the handoff. I went right. Sack, fumble, game over. Season over. It was also senior night, so it was the last game for a lot of dudes. I had to sit with that all winter and spring. But read the playbook and put in the time. 9 words my dad said a lot. One day over the summer, I can't find the playbook. Missing in action. Can't ask for another one because it's just a bad look. Read the playbook and put in the time. There's no time to put in if there's no playbook. Nothing could change, and I can't redeem myself if there's no playbook. During my shift one day, Dave comes in, and there it was. Found it behind a cardboard cutout of Alf. Sounds about right. I said, Dave, thank you so much. I can't repay you enough. He says you can by watching this movie. He hands me a DVD for a movie called Rudy. He asked if I'd seen it before, and I was like, I hadn't even heard of it. He rolled his eyes and, again in classic fashion, gave me the Dave Piper guarantee that I would like it. I go home that night, ice up my ankles, and then pop it in my laptop. It's about this poor kid who fights his way to make the Notre Dame football team, and then he gets to play in the last game, and it's really special, and they all raise him up at the end and shout, Rudy, Rudy, Rudy.
What do I do?
And a really young Vince Vaughn was there. I didn't even notice at first, but I was tearing up at the end. He read the playbook, but he also made his own playbook. It wasn't just learning the X's and O's. There was also this confidence. He bet on himself as a person, and he got on the field. He knew what he wanted to be.
Sometime, Rock, when the team's up against it, when things are wrong and the breaks are beating the boys, tell them to go in there with all they've got and win just one for the Gipper. I don't know where I'll be then, Rock, but I'll know about it, and I'll be happy.
That movie made me smile for the first time in a while. I mean, I had no clue old movies could be that good. I got why people would actually want to willingly come into Blockbuster now. People could get the same experience I did with Rudy. I wanted to recommend things like Dave did. I wanted people to be as excited as I was. So, one day, this lady comes in and returns season 2 of Golden Girls. She asked if we have season 3, and it turns out we didn't, but we did have season 4. She started getting mad at me because she was like, I can't watch season 4 without seeing season 3. And I was like, lady, I don't think you're missing any crucial plot points in season 3. I said to her, for your troubles, what if I give you season 1 of Friday Night Lights on the house? Another Dave recommendation. He said it's like Rudy, but a TV show. A couple weeks later, I guess she came back, went to Dave and said to thank that football kid for the recommendation. I was honestly surprised she came back in to say thank you, but it was cool. Dave came up to me and tells me he's really proud of the work I'm doing. I was proud of the work I was doing. I liked it here. I like who I was becoming here. Now, usually we got this little section at the door called Dave's Picks, and it's just all these DVDs that Dave likes and recommends to people. It's mostly what I like to call dad movies, like Miracle on Ice or Alien. I made the dad movies comment to him, and he responded, dads deserve movies too. Fair enough. I walk in one day to start my shift, and now it says Flips Picks. A gift, he said, for your work. It was my thing, my name on green construction paper and fuzzy pipe cleaners. I never really had anything in my life that was mine, you know? I had been doing football since I was 9, and coaches always say it's about the team, getting the other guys back and putting the team above yourself. But this was different. This was the first thing people saw when they walked in. Okay, first is the cardboard cutout of Kevin Costner, but then Flip's Picks. It was more than a job now. It was something more special than that. I had paid off my late fee forever ago. I had the exact day where I paid it off too, but I never told Dave. Honestly, I think he even forgot about the fee. I would take out all these sports movies and watch them on the weekends so much this senior year. Dave let me take them for free as long as I brought them back by Monday. Every time I returned a movie, he'd always say, "Here's looking at you, kid." Every time, "Here's looking at you, kid." Apparently it's from some black and white foreign film. Dave was always more of a artsy film kind of guy. So some time goes by and I started getting weirded out because Dave kept coming in less and less, and he put me in charge a lot more to close up. I thought maybe this was like a weird way of giving me a promotion. It wasn't until later I found out he was sick. Like, sick. He'd been hiding it for 6 months. Dave was always a private man outside of work, but that was his business. It wasn't even until later that I found out he had a daughter. It's crazy to think that people have these lives completely outside of you. The last time I ever saw Dave was when he handed me Tin Cup on Blu-ray and closed up the shop, saying what he always said, "Here's looking at you, kid." A month later, he was gone. Before Dave passed, I took this creative writing class, and we were assigned to write a paper about someone who had a big impact on our lives, besides our parents. You can guess who I wrote mine on. Dave wasn't always vocal or external, but he was passionate. He took care of me. He loved movies and bonding over it. He made this place feel like a second home. The paper got a B-, but my mom liked it. She said she could hear my voice through the paper. I never told him about the paper. I'm not really one for sentimentality, especially B- sentimentality. Looking back, I'd give anything to have shown him that paper. I wish I could have seen that subtle grin on his face as he read it. The one where he's trying not to smile, but he can't help it. I know he would have loved it. Mrs. Piper now runs the store. She said to me, "So you're the famous Flip Sanders I've been hearing so much about." In the flesh. She thanked me. She said there were things in Dave's life he needed to feel again, and that he learned those things again because of me. And I had it changed back to Dave's Picks. I just assumed that's what she wanted, and it's what I wanted. It turns out my mom sent her the paper I wrote about Dave. Mrs. Piper knew it had to stay Flip's Picks. She wanted that to stand long after I left this place, which was soon. My dad was really gung-ho about me going to Linfield for football. They offered me a scholarship and everything. And football decision day came, and that's where I committed. That was before I got off the wait list to Seattle University. I applied last second and got waitlisted. Never expected to get off of it, though. It wasn't easy to do, but my parents let me go to Seattle as long as I worked a job and kept the car in good condition. Dad wanted football at Linfield to keep the legacy going, but I wanted film in Seattle. He came around, said it was time for a new Sanders legacy of filmmakers, and to not forget him when I'm all rich and famous. Lucky for him, though, the football team needed a new videographer. My last day on the job, I noticed Mrs. Piper framed the paper I wrote about Dave in the store. It didn't have a title when I wrote it, but since then, I retroactively gave her a title so it felt complete. Here's looking at you, Dave.
He'd never admit it, but Flip always wanted his life to be like a sports movie. But I think he got it in a different way. Much like Rudy, he decided to follow a playbook of his own creation. It's a different kind of happy ending. Sometimes life takes us down paths we don't expect and bump into people we never anticipate. Before I left, he let me take home a copy of Remember the Titans. He said the late fee was on him. As I said, Bend is a small place, so a big-time reporter pursuing around town is news that spreads like wildfire. Robin Diggs found me at Penn Diner and seemed confident enough in her story to approach me with it. What I didn't know is that it was only one half of the story.
My name is Robin Diggs, and I am a receptionist for the 3-time award-winning Skyline Dental.
Chase Dowd, 27, lawyer.
I spend all day in the waiting room at Skyline, and we get tons of kids every day. I always feel so bad for them. They're so young and so scared, but they'll thank us later in life when they have clean and healthy teeth. They just don't know it yet. Anyway, we have this super old TV in the waiting room for the kids to watch movies and distract them. Now, here's the weird thing. It only takes VHS, which is shocking in 2020. It's like, get with the times, people. I keep telling everyone that we need to get a DVD player or maybe a snazzy Roku. I mean, let's try to at least get somewhere in this millennium.
You know, I feel like not enough people appreciate Milk Duds. It first hits you with that classic milk chocolate, and then before you're ready, boom! That's the caramel. It's that killer 1-2 punch, just like brr, brr. When I was 9, I traded all my candy on Halloween just to have Milk Duds. One year, I even dressed up as a box of Milk Duds. When I was 15, I was in debate club, and I got the question, should school uniforms be required? And at one point, in my 7-minute response, I said, and I quote, making uniforms mandatory makes about as much sense as dipping a Milk Dud in gravy. I lost that round. But it was the moment that I knew I wanted to become a lawyer. I wasn't really big into coffee, so I remember a lot of late nights studying for the LSAT that were just fueled by Milk Duds. So every single Thursday during lunchtime at my firm, I'll buy a box of Milk Duds. I like to call it my cheat day. Now, there's this candy store across the street called Sweetie's Sweets. Great name, real original. Guess how much they cost there? $4.50. I know, come on. I wanted to sue them on the spot. Sadly, the rest of the firm was not on board with that plan. So then I read this article in the Bend Bulletin about how the guitarist from Kiss visited the last Blockbuster in the world a couple weeks back. I don't know what possessed him to come, but more importantly, I totally forgot we still had a Blockbuster. So I'm thinking to myself, they must have candy there. Something to sell you along with the movies, snag a couple more bucks from you. And they probably have Milk Duds. It's a movie theater classic. So one day during lunch, I head down to see if they had any cheap duds there.
So I get there, and they have a whole section of musicals on VHS.
So I get there, and I see this whole stand full of candy.
Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Busby Berkeley.
Chocolate coating, caramel candy, amazing price. It was only $1.
I rent a whole bunch of them.
I buy like 10 boxes.
The kids love them so much.
My coworkers hate them so much. I'm a loud chewer.
The dancing and the spectacle just makes the kids so happy. This one kid came in a tutu and danced along to the movie. It was so adorable. Anyway, while I'm buying the tapes, I also decided to get some DVDs of TV shows while I'm at it. I have so much time during my lunch break, so I thought it'd be fun to bring my laptop and watch some shows while I eat. So I began watching Golden Girls.
And a few weeks later, I come in during my lunch break, and this guy behind the register is like, we have a candy discount if you rent 2 or more DVDs. He had ice around his ankles for some reason, which I found weird. But look, I'm always one to save a quick buck. Food Truck Wars, Season Uno. My buddy actually has a food truck in Portland, and he turned me on to the show. Highly, highly addictive. The Milk Duds of TV shows, if you will.
Golden Girls is an absolute must-watch. I get through the first 2 seasons no problem. I come back for season 3, but I couldn't find it on the shelves, so I asked an employee if they had it in the back or something, and he said no. I was deflated, a little peeved. He said I should just go on to season 4, but I don't want to be confused of anything I missed in season 3, so the register boy recommends this show called Friday Night Lights. He said it was about high school football. And I was the equipment manager for the varsity team in high school, so I knew my way around high school football. I doubt they covered the intricacies of being an equipment manager, but fun nonetheless. So I go over to the aisle and get it.
So I'm at TV shows under F.
I bump into this bourgeoisie man in a cool suit. He even had a briefcase. It was so professional.
I bump into this girl in scrubs. She smiled at me. I smiled back.
He had nice teeth. You can tell he flosses twice a day.
I saw she had this huge stack of musicals on VHS.
He says to me,
"Oh, I always loved those Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers movies growing up."
"Thank you. People thought there was no way kids would like this stuff, but I knew from the beginning it would be a success. I had a hunch. A big, fat hunch."
I had no clue what she was talking about.
He had no clue what I was talking about. So I just left. I never know what to do in these situations. I had ruined everything. I go up to the register because I just went weirdo mode with this fancy dude and his floss teeth.
She left in a weird hurry. I liked her passion, though. And her smile.
I've got my musicals and my Friday Night Lights, but of course, I left my wallet at the office.
Will that be cash or credit?
Crap, I'm so sorry. I thought I...
Cash. This one's on me.
Oh, I couldn't.
Trust me, this cash was about to go to 5 boxes of Milk Duds. You're doing me a favor. I wanted to tell her that I'd like to see her again. I don't know. I liked her spunk. It's hard to put into words. It was just something magnetic about her, I guess. I had a hunch. A big fat hunch.
I wanted to tell him that all that caramel had a very high chance of pulling out any feelings he had. Oh, why, thank you. And they say chivalry is dead.
Well, the reports of that death have been greatly exaggerated.
You're $2 short.
Crap, sorry. I do need to run, but if you ever need legal assistance...
Oh, I got pulled over one time when I was 18 and I was driving with flip-flops on, and the cop gave me a ticket for it.
We can totally sue that guy if you want. Well, if you ever get in any more flip-flop legal situations...
Wait. Is this your way of giving me your number?
When I played that one out in my head, it felt a lot smoother.
It was not smooth at all.
I do need to run. Apologies for the unsmoothliness.
I think I might have a flip-flop driving ticket, maybe Thursday at 7?
Chase! My name is Chase. I just realized that I just gave you the business card.
Oh, Robin. Like the bird.
Thursday at 7, Robin.
Chase doesn't know this part, but his fly was down the entire conversation.
Don't worry, the Milk Duds weren't a deal breaker for Robin. She likes seeing people passionate about things. Not to mention, Chase has been able to cut down to just half a box a day. Everything in moderation, I guess. And for anyone wondering, they live together now. Bought a nice condo right next to Tamalo Falls with an orange tabby named Rio. I saved this final story for last for a reason. On my last day in Bend, I noticed a girl aimlessly wandering the aisles. She wasn't there to buy. She just seemed to be taking it all in. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, like she was the only person on earth. Something in me needed to walk up to her and get the story of Maggie Piper.
I wasn't there to buy movies or anything. I was never really into movies and all that stuff. The only movies I saw was when it would be raining during recess in elementary school and we had to stay indoors and watch a movie in the gym. I would usually just chill in the bathroom the whole time. Sorry. I'm trying to be better with focusing up on things. Anyway, yes, why I'm here. My dad was not an easy person to be around growing up. He wasn't an addict or anything. We just never seemed to get along. He had a ton of anger issues when I was growing up. Nothing abusive, but you can tell raising a child during that period in his life would not be a success, and it wasn't. He was quiet and internal as a parent and was very big into shushing and interrupting. He was a big personality and a small one at the same time. Once I got older and noticed his parenting more, I called him out on it more, and that only made him resent me more, and vice versa. My mom was the peacekeeper. She had to cool everything down before it would start back up again and redo the process again. By the time I was 16, I only talked to my dad about taking the car and what was for dinner. I usually ate in my room during dinner for the most part. It was either that or awkward silence at the table. We just didn't have a lot in common, and I never subscribed to the idea that you had to like your family just because you lived together. He became just a guy who I lived with. He was more of a landlord than a dad. My mom told me maybe he learned it from his parents and it's all he knows. Like, that's supposed to make me feel better. That just made me scared, because does that mean I'll be like him too? In full honesty, the last thing I ever want is to be like my dad. My friends at school seem to like their parents. My mom is great. But Dad was lackluster. Mom saw some side of him I never could. She would talk about their first date at the Oregon Zoo when they were in their 20s and how everything was brand new to him. It was those types of moments I could see as humanity. Just him. Frozen in that moment. I kept waiting for the day I would see that side. People always seemed surprised when I told them my dad and I weren't close. I mean, it wasn't surprising to me. It's not like I knew something different. When it came time for college, I was pretty set on going to NYU, and Mom was mortified. Mom said, "Dave, could you please chime in?" He said, "Go wherever you want. I don't give a shit." It wasn't in the tune of follow your dreams. It was in the tune of I don't care about your future because it doesn't affect me. By the time I got to college, I began to realize I now had my own anger issues, which made me even more pissed off because I know I got them from Dad, and all of this could have been avoided if he had just been a halfway decent parent. Not even a great one, just somewhat more decent than correcting every small mistake I make to make yourself feel smarter, or yelling because I changed the radio station, even though it's driver's rules. I couldn't try to make friends in New York because mentally I was still in Oregon, pissed off at my parents. Also, I don't know how to give love to other people. No one taught me. I just stayed in my room all freshman year. My roommate thought I was some antisocial psycho, which was only half true. I was lonely and angry and couldn't sleep at all because of it. I started taking sleeping pills for insomnia. I paid for them myself because I didn't want to be beholden to my parents anymore. They give me triazolam, and whatever dose they had me on didn't do shit. I couldn't keep being with my mind every fucking moment of every fucking day, so I started popping more and more. They knocked me out until noon and made me a zombie until 10. I wasn't human, but I could at least breathe for once in my life. I then learned I couldn't get refills until the end of the month, or else they'd know I was taking more. So, the last 2 weeks of every month, I became even more pissed than I'd ever be, and I couldn't sleep. In my mind, it was worth it for the other 2 weeks of bliss in the month. I kept that going throughout sophomore year before I passed out one afternoon during the non-drug half of the month. The withdrawal reached a tipping point and said, "Fuck you, Maggie." Doctors took me off triazolam slowly, then gave me a therapist. Needless to say, she had her work cut out. We talked for weeks, and I didn't think I was getting anywhere. I just wanted to know how to get this fucking gray cloud out of my skull. And she just wanted me to call my parents. Which would never happen, considering I blame them for all of this. Dad decided not to be a parent at all, and Mom stood by him for whatever reason. It's fucking bullshit that your happiness is decided before you're born because some dude had shitty parents and then decided to have a child of his own. I didn't ask for any of this. During our 5th session, my therapist asked what my biggest fear was. I said being like my dad. She said it's too late for that to be your fear because it already happened. I became as cold and bitter as my dad was. She made an educated guess. My dad didn't talk to his parents when he got older, so you not talking to yours makes you exactly like him. Lady could become a lawyer, for fuck's sake. You're doomed to repeat the cycles you choose to ignore. So begrudgingly, I picked up the phone. I could hear my mom drop the phone and pick it back up. She thought she'd never hear from me again. Dad, too. My mom said they made their peace. With each other. With the situation. It was whatever I wanted, she said to me. She said Dad took this harder than her, which was surprising. He wasn't eating as much, sleeping as much. She said he was something different when I left. And apparently, me moving out made Dad buy a Blockbuster. The estrangement put my dad in a midlife crisis. When he realized I wouldn't be home for Thanksgiving, it really sunk in for him, so he needed to shake his life up. Break the cycle. So he bought a Blockbuster. And to explain himself, he said he took this job at a movie theater in high school so he could sneak his friends in for free movies in exchange for weed. My point is that when my dad wants something, he'll go all the way to get it. They got it dirt cheap, and everyone knew that Blockbuster only had a couple years left. But then a couple Blockbusters in Alaska closed, so of course the one my dad had was the last Blockbuster in the world. A good, dare I say, great selling point to have. Mom said he liked doing it. It was the next chapter of his life that he was looking for. Those 2 years really changed him. It changed both of them. Then Mom dropped the bomb that he was sick. Had been for a few months now. She didn't know whether to call me about it or not. It was manageable, and then it got worse, and then really worse, and next thing you know, he has 2 months to live. You hear your dad has X amount of time to live, and your world stops. Even with all the issues I had with him, it's a ton to take in. I didn't know whether to fly back because I thought it would justify his shitty behavior as a parent. But then I remembered you're doomed to repeat the cycles you choose to ignore. Everything in my life comes from keeping anger within me. It was time to stop it. I walk back into my house, and there it was. Welcome Home Mags. This big old DIY poster. It was Dad's idea. My dad and I had a lot of talks in that month. We needed to find the peace. His words, not mine. I started off by telling him about the addiction and overdose. When I imagined having this talk, I always dreamed of telling him off and saying it was your fault I'm like this. But it was the opposite. I owned up to my anger. At a certain point in your life, you're responsible for how you feel. I said it was my fault, but he took on that weight. Said that he made me overdose and that he'd go to the grave never forgiving himself, but the cycle needed to end. No one should hold on to anger. So I told him it's okay to forgive. It's never too late to forgive. I forgive you, Dad. You can forgive yourself. My dad shared our first hug after I said that. With 2 months left, my dad showed me all his favorite movies and that I can take these movies wherever I go when I miss him. The last movie I ever saw with him was Singin' in the Rain. He told me how Gene Kelly had 102-degree fever when he did the titular number.
I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain.
He had the biggest grin on his face during all the numbers. Then right there on a tombstone, Dave Piper, 1963 to 2020. It's weird seeing years next to your dad's name. Makes it tangible. I spent some more time in Bend to help Mom out. But yet, after all this time, I still never set foot in this Blockbuster until today. I can't really make up time with my parents, but this came really close. I just had to take it all in and breathe. Then I see this section called Flips Picks. It had some crappy choices, but there was some film called Dave there. It looked like some cheesy-looking rom-com with Ripley from Alien. Even knowing that, I felt my body leave me. There he was. Dave. Dad. I could take him with me wherever I go. It's okay to forgive. It's never too late to forgive.
When I began this podcast, I wanted to answer what made someone walk into Blockbuster in 2020. What I learned is that destiny does. An invisible string ties so many people to an obsolete video store the same way you find the person you spend the rest of your life with, or how you find that place in the world to call your new home. Marissa Piper says there are no plans to close the Blockbuster. So there it stays, the last Blockbuster, the one and only, sandwiched between a cannabis retailer and a pet cremation service, a signature beer from a local pub, 4,000 active accounts and counting. Time won't catch up to this place because this building is destined to be here forever. A reminder that good things are worth sticking around for. After all this time, all I can think about are those 7 days at the last Blockbuster of Bend, Oregon.
The problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. Someday you'll understand that. Now. He's looking at you, kid.